Yeah.
Oh,
it was like the very first song.
What? Let me entertain you.
Yeah.
All right. Can I guess what he finished with?
Go for it.
Was it not Angels?
Yeah, I think it was actually Angels. Yeah, I was quite drunk. Yeah, it was Angels.
Oh, boring.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I was hoping it was. There you go.
Yes, it was.
It was. Oh, good. That's all right then. Good. Right, John. I'll let you take over for a sec. I have. What have you gone for?
Are we live? Just a Pepsi Max. Not cherry.
Oh, cherry.
Oh, nice.
Where's yours, Bryony?
Do you know, I don't have a Pepsi, but I do have this right in front of me. I missed the Pepsi memo.
Premium.
I'm not. You either like Pepsi or you like Coke. I'm Pepsi. Like
I'm definitely
you Coke.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Pepsi. Yeah, we are sponsored by Pepsi here.
Oh, we should be. Bryony, I used to work for Coca-Cola for like 4 years. And the Diet Coke formula was specifically designed for the female palate.
Now, I did hear this, but I didn't know if it was ever true. And then also, is it the Coke Zero is for guys, or is that fake news?
Yeah, no, absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely true. It was all designed and all the testing labs and all like the audience that they base it on and everything. It is so the Coke Zero is aimed at the male palate.
Yeah.
Diet Coke is aimed at the female palate, hence the advertising, the campaign, even the colours of the cans, the silver is aimed at female audience, and obviously the adverts during the 80s and 90s was fairly female based.
Yeah, well, it's worked, so I'm a sucker for marketing.
There you go. And you look through the 90s, all the Pepsi Max and everything was David Beckham, Shakira, Beyonce, Messi, like all like the sports, that kind of stuff, and pop singers. It's all aimed at a different crowd. But anyway, moving on from that. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to meet you, Bryony.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
So, John.
Sorry. On you go.
John started to tell me about your story, and sometimes like he starts telling me things. I'm like, nope, I don't want to hear it. I want to hear it from the source. I want to hear it first time.
Yeah.
So I've sort of done that with yourself. So I'm going to let you and Jon sort of talk, and I'll interrupt and being rude and just interrupt at points if that's okay with you.
Yeah, of course. Let's go.
Do you know what's cool as well? Is like as much as I know Bryony, I don't know her that well. So like we've like crossed paths in the gym. We know people that know each other. We've been in the same training at the same times in the same gyms, and we're like been at the same events and stuff, but we're not that familiar with each other. So it's quite good as well. And that's why I wanted to have you on. And then for anyone that's watching live just now or like in the future, we've got Bryony Keys. It is Bryony, isn't it?
Yes.
It is. Yeah, fucking hell. That would be great if I knew that before, like, prior. I just assumed it was Bryony Keys, and she is the Scottish. Well, I was going to say Hyrox competitor, but I would say just athlete.
I've been doing a bit of everything.
Yeah, and I wanted to have her on because she's got a very interesting story from the last year or so. But yeah, let's just dive into it. We don't want to get into the accident just yet.
Yeah.
But if you tell us, apart from like race results, like what was your entry point into like fitness? Were you always sporty kind of growing up? Like what were your younger years like?
Of course. Yeah. So up until I was 20, I used to compete quite a lot. We had horses. So like that was our main focus, like completely obsessed. But with that also in school, I was definitely not as academic. So I would be part of like the hockey team, the basketball team, all the sporty teams. And never went like high level in anything. It was just really like school level. Then when I was 20, I went traveling for 2 years, and I didn't do anything particular. I've always ran here and there. Then when I came back from traveling, I guess the classic story of like put the Sydney stone, as they call it. So I put on weight, and then when I came back then after the 2 years, I just really wanted to focus on getting fit, getting back running again, and just having like a routine. So I started then CrossFit when I was about 21, but I was like very much an amateur. I did that for about 4 years. I really just wanted something to focus on and get me my strength back and get my just general fitness back. Then I guess then that it's through CrossFit I heard about, and Instagram, I heard about Hyrox. And funny enough, and as John knows as well, it took ages to come to Scotland as far up as we had. Like, I think I was one of the first people that I certainly know of in the area that had even heard of or done a Hyrox. So I did my first one at the beginning of 2013. I did an open. I think it was like roughly an hour 20. It was all very new to me. I think my burpees, I remember, took me 7.5 minutes, which is insane. And then so that was like March of 2023. Then I
was that you did it? I remember you did it doubles with Sharon, did you not?
Yeah, I did actually a doubles before I did my singles. Yeah, so that was Glasgow, and we actually qualified for Worlds in our doubles. Now, if anyone's on the Hyrox, doubles is so fun. Then it was after my doubles with Shar, did my singles, and I think if it's showing up there, if you've got my results, it was like an hour 20. 2020.
What year did you start CrossFit, by the way? Because I know you said you were 21, you came back from Sydney, but what year was that?
That is a very good point. So it would have been maybe like,
just so we know, from like starting CrossFit to the first Hyrox.
Yeah, that's very true. 3, 8, whatever 8 years ago is now.
What's that, Jake?
17. Yeah.
2011. Cool.
Yeah.
I just thought that would be an interesting fact, just for people watching, thinking like, right, when you started CrossFit to then like your first
100%.
Hyrox, and then because I remember, because I obviously know Sharon from a CrossFit gym as well, and then you obviously are friends and like train with Sharon as well, and you went. I remember you went to do doubles, and then did Sharon ever do another? She did another solos as well, didn't she? And then
in Barcelona we both did singles. Shar podiumed at that one. So that was that one. That wasn't too far after. So that was the spring of 2023. And then I really wanted to like focus on Hyrox. Like, I was absolutely hooked. I love the running side of things. Like CrossFit, it was very much, it took me 3 years to get like a kipping pull up. It's the little things that everyone talks about for CrossFit. Like, it's so hard to master. So I spent like then March till it would be November. Like, that was my sole focus, was Hyrox. Like, I was dialed in, and I did my first pro in Copenhagen at the back end of 2023. And that is when I came second overall. I can't quite remember my time, maybe in at 1 hour 13.
Yeah, 1:12:39. I've got your results up here.
Yeah, awesome. So like, absolutely delighted coming second overall at Copenhagen. Then
what do you think, before you jump forward, what do you think was the biggest thing from Barcelona getting 120 in like the open to then like literally just in the same year then doing the pro women, coming second but knocking off like over 8 minutes of your time? And I'm asking questions that I kind of know the answers to, by the way.
Yeah, of course. No, absolutely.
What was the biggest change from like starting to then going pro and like knocking off and actually like your podium and getting invites to Worlds?
Main thing, my level of running, to be fair. It was definitely my level of running. And then the one part that like sometimes I do hate to like admit is like I did also lose weight, which was like necessary. So that made, do you know what? It's the little things. It made my running so much easier. So this is before that video there was.
Yeah, that video was.
I lost. Yeah. So a combination of training like specifically as well, doing the movements, and a big part of zone 2 running the classic.
Why don't you like saying about the like the getting, like, don't necessarily losing weight, but getting leaner. Like why do you hold like a negative connotation to that? Because I've obviously gone through similar. When I started Hyrox, I was like 256 was my first one. I was like 256 pounds, and then now I'm sitting at like 203. And I see, obviously I was way bigger, but and like I totally feel the benefits of like obviously losing weight. It's less stress on the joints. I'm faster. I'm able to recover better.
I think the biggest thing is being a girl, I know like what a sensitive subject it is, and I don't want to be the only way you're going to get like improve is by losing weight, because that's definitely something like over like probably like 10 years, like I guess you'd say I have issues, especially in like my mid-20s. So I just never want to encourage and be like, that's the only reason I improved, because, and we'll get on to it, after my injury, like I fluctuated my weight massively, and the main thing that's got me back down is going back to like what I consider my good training weight.
Cool. Obviously then you qualified for Worlds off the back of the Copenhagen, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I did.
And then,
it's funny, I can't remember which ones I qualified at, but I just know I did.
Right, I'm assuming Malmo, and then you won Glasgow.
I did win Glasgow. Well. In between that, I did Frankfurt. I did Frankfurt in December 2023, which was actually my fastest time. So I got an hour.
I was going to say that's actually your best one, yeah.
Yeah, that's my best time. Was an hour 7 at Frankfurt. Then I also did do Glasgow, and it's funny because even though I won Glasgow and I loved it, especially being a home crowd, like I did feel the pressure more, and I did very much get she's the one to watch, which is scary, it's a lot. It's just the way that I'm wired. I was like, well, it wasn't a PB, so I finished that, and I wasn't like that proud of myself. And I wish I just sat in the moment more and just be like, you did really well. Because as we all know with Hyrox, all the courses are so different, especially if you've been to Glasgow. It is so busy. It is chaos, the course. I was on the same time as the mixed doubles. So a lot of people then know what that's like. But so even though I won it, I came off and I was like, it wasn't like a good enough time.
You're filling Jake full of confidence. Jake's not done a Hyrox yet, and we've signed up for the pro doubles in Birmingham.
Doubles is different though. Doubles is so fun. Doubles is great.
I think doubles is harder.
It's definitely more intense, but you do get that little break.
Yeah.
You'll be great, Jake. Don't worry.
I've got zero expectations. The only reason I'm going there is to just experience it. And I've got no aspirations of being a Hyrox athlete, but I coach Hyrox at our affiliate on the island where I live, and I preach about it, and I talk about it a lot on here, and I've learned a lot about it, but I've never actually experienced it. So for me, it's kind of enjoyment, and just to run around a little bit with Yoni boy and have a nice day out.
Great. Yeah. Well, and especially for your first race, and this is what I say to everyone, it's just the benchmark. You can go in with all these like grand plans, but really you've got to race it and know before before you can put a set time down.
I'm just gonna let Jon lead the way. He'll tell me what to do and where to go.
Love it.
I'm just hoping Jake, he can carry me on the sleds and whatnot, and then we'll just ping off, like
teamwork.
That's the one. That's the one. And then, so I'm not sure. I'm not even sure. Are you still coached by James or?
JK. Only until I had my accident, and then kind of like we're still in touch, like good friends. I continued with him for months, and then my surgery kept getting pushed further and further back. Like I couldn't do anything, but I was like, I'm not stopping. I don't want to. And then and then I guess we'll come to the accident. We're still, but I'm not specifically training for Hyrox now. I'm
Hyrox
back
at the moment. No. So then take us, obviously, then you qualified for Worlds. You went to, it was
World.
Nice Was it Nice?
It was Nice. Yes.
Yeah. And you did solos and mixed doubles there.
Yeah, so I was actually asked to fill in the space. So my doubles partner, his female partner, wasn't able to do it. So he put a call out, and then I was recommended to race with him because we had similar run times. And so that was day 2.
It's quite cool that they do that, for like the doubles. Like if you've qualified a solo and another doubles partner needs it, you can step in and do that.
I'm pretty sure it's changed this year, but last year you were able to switch. Yeah.
It's a shame because I remember Joe. Do you know Joda?
I think she also trains at Pure Gym sometimes, or you did.
No, Joda's. She's got girl box gym down in Grangemouth.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So she's I think she qualified about 10 different times this year for like different events, and she's like, I think she's dotted about like trying to get partners for multiple different races, but there's some of the ones that she can't do because the partners that she qualified with can't, and now they're not letting them like switch them out. Like so then after Worlds, you were then due to go. Well, you did go to Australia, and what was the Australia trip for?
Okay, so I took 3 months off work and went to Australia, and that was purely just to compete in Hyrox and just spend 3 months because like the trajectory and everything was going so well in Hyrox. So I was really focusing on that, and I could take the time off my day job. And so took 3 months off, flew to Australia.
What is your day job, by the way?
I'm a HR manager.
What are you, sorry?
HR manager.
HR manager, okay.
Yeah, so working corporate. And I went out, started training. So Melbourne was going to be my first event. And I was literally there a week. I went to the Melbourne venue, was just doing a recce of the area, so I knew where to go 2 days before the event. And then on my way back, I was literally just crossing a pedestrian crossing, and a 4x4, a Ford Ranger, the guy driving it, I was just so, do you know, it's actually a really boring story. I was just walking across the pedestrian crossing, and the guy in the Ford Ranger was on his phone, so he didn't see any of us crossing. And it just happened to be I was the first one to him. But because he hit me like quite fast, I kind of went flying, and then he ran over my leg, my foot. So yeah, but it's funny what happens, fight or flight, because I got up instantly. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, did you? You managed to get up after it, yeah.
And I walked to the side, and then I just, like, to be fair, collapsed at the side. But in my mind, I was like that was like sore. Like I smacked my head off the ground, but I was like, I think I'm okay. The ambulance and everything came, and then they were like, you've got to go to hospital. And then that's when, the pain just started kicking in good and proper. So yeah, as you can see there, I went straight in for x-rays, and my foot was basically, it was completely flattened. So when it got ran over, instead of being ran over like that, because I was on my side when I got hit, like it got crushed like that way. So basically every bone and toe was broken in my foot like multiple times. So they had to rebuild the arch. They basically rebuilt my whole foot. So in there's 4 metal plates and 25 screws just in my one foot.
Jake, do you want to see the foot?
I'm always keen to see.
Yeah, I don't think this foot would do very well on OnlyFans, but
no, it wouldn't. And the thing is, you can't actually see the rest of it because it's the other side. So it wasn't looking. And I just sent you the nicer.
I know. Even that one, I was like wincing out, like
yeah.
Yeah, it's in a bad
And that
state.
was the metal that came out of your foot, wasn't it? Which is metal. That's thing. Like you had that in your feet, like on your foot.
Yeah. So that was.
Do you know what?
When you go.
So we talked about this last week about the nature of surgery and the nature of kind of orthopedics. It hasn't really changed, like the actual physical barbarity that surgeons have to go through on the human body, it hasn't really changed since pirate ships were sawing off legs and like putting splints on. But the way that they anesthetics is obviously the better thing to come out of all of it. But looking at the tools and the kit, obviously it's got more sophisticated, clearly. However, the actual mechanics of fixing broken bones and legs is pretty much the same as it's always been. And it's just seeing that is just a brutal reminder of that.
Yeah.
Bryony, what was like the process like from you, like the timeline of you being run over and then going to the hospital and then like going through like surgeries and things, and then
everything else.
What I know, because I know like I remember looking back at your stories from back then, and were you not like stuck not being able to get on a flight for like a flight home? And like obviously like that was like the trip was kind of ended at that point, but you couldn't come home either.
So my accident happened on the 27th of June. And then because the swelling in my foot was so bad, they couldn't do surgery and they couldn't do anything with it. So I had to wait 3 weeks for my surgery. I then got my surgery, and then they did actually then want me to wait another 5 to 8 weeks before I traveled back home. But I was like, I need to get home. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I was determined. So I basically said to the surgeon, I was like, is there any way I can get home earlier? And they said, if I signed if I signed my life away, then I could come home earlier. So I think then it was about 2 weeks after my surgery, so about 5 weeks after the accident, I was able to fly home and get taken over like the care when I was back home. But that journey back was horrendous because I couldn't fit in anywhere. My legs wouldn't, like I couldn't bend my legs. I was on my crutches. Well, actually I was in the wheelchairs for most of it. And then when I got on the plane, the wheelchairs wouldn't fit, so I had to get on crutches. But I was in a wheelchair for, it was quite a few months to start with. And then they had to take over the care over here. But the surgeons in Inverness, because they didn't really know what was happening with my foot, they didn't know what was in there. It was all a bit vague from my discharge notes. So they just did the best as they could. But what didn't help is my foot wasn't healing at all. So I had probably maybe 3-inch wound, my main one on the top. It wouldn't close over. So I was in, so that opened up, that top one. So that opened up and they couldn't it just wouldn't close back over. So I was like forever just getting, I think it was like 2-3 times a week I was having to go get my bandages changed and try and get work like that done. But I was still in a wheelchair at the time. Then I eventually progressed onto crutches. So I think overall I was between a wheelchair and crutches for July, August, September, October, for 5 months. And then in November, I was told that I should be going in for my second surgery to get all the metalwork taken back out. And it's funny because that's one thing like I would definitely I'll recommend at the end, I guess. I then had my heart set on. They were like, you're going to have your second surgery. All the metalwork will come out by December. So I was like so excited. So I thought from the 1st of January, I'm ready to go again. It's only then been 6 months that I've been like out of action. I still try to do as much as possible at home and things like that. But then my surgery kept getting pushed back because my foot wasn't healing. And I think that's the biggest thing. And funny enough, Meg Jacoby has just put up a post just now. I gave myself like a deadline from the 1st of January, I'll be fine. I'm good to go. And then the more that deadline got pushed back, I guess you'd say, the more, I guess, it affected me as in like really
That's
sad.
what I was going to ask. Yeah. Like how was it mental? Like, how was the mental kind of like handle from going like, you know, podium finishes, worlds, flying over to Australia to like, obviously like, were you competing? You were competing solo and were you going to be doing doubles with Georgie in Australia as well.
Yes, so I did a doubles with Georgie as well, and like I had so many plans to like really progress in the doubles. Now, funny enough, the first few months I thought I handled it better than I ever would if something like that had happened, but so much was going on. I probably also did help. I was having on so much medication. I slept like 18 hours a day, so I didn't have much time to stress about it. But yeah, then once I found out my surgery, and each time it got pushed back, and then the date that I had given myself, which was completely made up of the 1st of January, when I knew that wasn't happening, like, yeah, I got like down in the dumps, you could say. And that's when it affected me mentally the most. And
talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she put a comment on there about, because she had given herself a deadline about coming back to being fit. And I think that's the biggest thing I'd recommend is it's easier said than done. Don't give yourself a deadline. Because if you don't hit that deadline, then you feel like you're a failure, basically, which is what I felt. And then that's when mentally I got really down in the dumps. And like, I think in the space of like 3 months, I put on like 1.5 stones, and I was eating my feelings. So, which just made it worse. So I was, yeah.
Cool. It's a difficult time for anyone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
One question before we moved on, just quickly. Was it Australia that the accident happened, wasn't it? Is it illegal to be on your phone whilst driving in Australia?
I'm assuming yes, because he was done for reckless driving.
Oh,
but maybe
that's what I was going to ask.
Or maybe it's just reckless because he hit someone, or whether it's I actually don't know, but yeah, he was charged for reckless driving. So yeah,
it's sometimes like strikes me when you go to different countries and like things aren't illegal that we take for granted as having been like put in place for safety measures and stuff. And one thing that it might be just this one guy, right? But one of the guys that we listened to a lot in the US was he had his mind blown by a mobile phone cradle for the car. Like that for him was this insanely new idea of something holding your phone whilst you're in the car rather than holding it in your hand.
Yeah, holding it yourself. Yeah.
Like it blew my mind that was something new. We've had 15 years.
Yeah,
like holding your phone became illegal to use. I think it was 2006, 2007, maybe. Like to use your phone whilst driving. That was when it became illegal, and I know that for a fact because I got pulled over and given 3 points because it was March of that year. I turned 21, so that would have been 2006. Yeah, February 2006 was when it became law in the UK. And it blows my mind that that it's not necessarily a thing in other countries yet, but I'm sure it will be.
Did you have to pay any hospital bills in Australia, or was it insurance, or?
Yeah, so what they had is I can't remember the exact name for it, but if a UK citizen's in Australia pays like the fees, and vice versa. If an Australian has an accident, reciprocal it's called. So they paid, so luckily, no fees.
And then Garrett, we don't pay directly to the hospital in Scotland, and then the healthcare reflects that.
We pay via tax.
Yeah.
Socialism. So there we go. So sorry, I interrupted there about the phone legal side of things.
I also wanted to ask, were you solo in Australia?
Yes.
Yeah,
So it was a tough time. I was staying like with a friend at the time. Like she was obviously still working, and she was a star looking after me. But I was only meant to be staying with her for like 2 weeks, and I ended up being with her throughout. So, but I don't like to be a burden on like anyone.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I don't need any help. Don't worry about me, sort of thing. But yeah, luckily, so I guess I wasn't completely alone, but I wasn't with family or anything like that.
Because you've got a partner back here as well, don't you? partner,
I
boyfriend.
do. Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't remember, like, if it was a boyfriend or fiance or whatever. But I was like, how did he take it while you were stuck in Australia?
Oh, I think, do you know what was hard is because when I was in pain, and I think he's still traumatized to this day. I remember vividly one of the nights I was in so much pain. I just called him, and I don't know, I wasn't thinking straight. I was like screaming, howling down the phone to like this guy that just literally couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So I think he was a bit traumatized by the whole event. But then at least like when I was home, it was kind of one of those just get home as soon as you can.
Yeah. I know I've been on the other end of that where my wife's given birth. Like the first time she gave birth, it was a really shitty birthing situation, and watching there and just being completely helpless in the same room. I don't know if that's better or worse than being the other side of the bloody world and at the other end of a phone. You know, that must have been pretty challenging for both of you. Obviously more so yourself, because you're the one in pain.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes that level of separation is quite tough. Now, Bryony, just a quick one. Either there's a woman that follows you around that looks exactly like you, or you've got a twin.
I have a twin sister. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you said that. Yeah. Rather than
that's why I'm intrigued.
I didn't even know that.
Well, whilst you've been gassing, I've been looking at your profile.
I mean, actually, I wondered I actually wondered what you were looking at.
Yeah. I have an identical twin sister. Oh, that's an old one. Yes.
Yeah, you haven't got many posts on here, but yeah, this is your personal one.
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
I don't know which one's you.
Was that 2017? I'm the one at the back.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. But sorry.
Yeah, these are all. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm an identical twin.
Yeah. Good. There we go.
That's mad.
Cute.
I was going to make a really stupid joke and say, "Oh, how old's your twin?"
Do you know what? You're not to be surprised. Like it just rolls off the tongue. People be like, "Oh, how old is she compared to you?"
Yeah, how old is she? Yeah.
What is the difference? Are you the oldest or the youngest?
Technically, I'm the youngest. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Do you know how many minutes there was?
Yeah. Well, do you know it was only one because my mum had a cesarean. So.
Oh, right.
Does it count? But yeah, so one.
Yeah, I've got a couple of mates that are two boys that are twins, and one of them's 10 minutes older than the other, and he acts like it's really strange. He acts like the older sibling, and the other one's a lunatic who's younger. It's like 10 minutes. It's really odd.
Does your sister do does she do like athletics of any kind?
She's massively into cycling. She's amazing at cycling. Yeah, that's her thing. So again, being the same age, being brought up together, she also rode horses. So that's just all we did together. And then she lives in London, but maybe about 8 years ago, she started road cycling, but like she's so good at it. But yeah, going on to my Ironman journey. So
yeah,
she's
I was
the
say
one.
we can get to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what do I need?
I was going to say, obviously now you've been given the all clear, like training wise. Like when did the surgeon or physio, I don't know who gave you the all clear to start running again?
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
It was very much so when I was with my surgeon last year back in the UK, he was very much like he's never seen anything this bad before. He's never had to deal with something like this. He's confident I won't be running again. And like, let alone like competing, he says, I have to prepare myself because he says he can't see how I will get back to that. I very much, and I don't know why I had this in my head. I remember stepping out and being like, that's not an option. Like running is such a big part of what I do and what I love. It was never an option. So really, I guess it was even when I had all the metalwork in my foot, I started trying to run in the December when I found out like I wasn't having my surgery. But I mean, like it felt weird, but I kind of adapted to it. But I mean, it was like 6.5 minute Ks, and I was doing I started off by doing like 1K, and then because it took me so long to actually get back to walking, then I only actually got my surgery, my second round of surgery, taking out all the metalwork 8 weeks ago. So funny enough, I was actually saying to Jake before you came on, so I had a 10K today. So the last 8 weeks, to be fair, I have gone hard, and obviously I don't recommend it, but I've very much just been like, I know how I feel. It's been feeling fine. So straight after my surgery in April, I had another 3 weeks off. Yes. So 8 weeks to the day, I got a 42-minute 10K. So all the metal works out. And
JK, like, oh, just started running properly again 8 weeks ago.
Yes.
42-minute 10K.
But it's definitely like what I needed, because I would say I definitely have lost my confidence in like my own ability, and I didn't think I'd ever get back to that. So like, it's definitely what I needed that today. And it was like so last minute. I was just messaged a couple of days ago about doing it. So
yeah, I've seen that.
We've gone back, like we've come back strong very quickly. But that's the one thing I just got to manage myself, because I'm definitely more renowned for getting carried away.
Yeah, so in the last 8 weeks since starting back running again, you've done the Caledonian ETAP, which is how far is that? That's a road bike race. How far is that?
136 kilometers.
136 kilometer road bike race. You've ran an ultra marathon, and you've done a 42-minute 10K.
Hang on, rewind a bit.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So you had surgery 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And when you told me you run your first 10K for a while,
yeah,
I thought, wow, she's done a 10K. That's quite a distance.
She ran an ultra last weekend, mate.
And now you tell me, and I've just pulled the post up whilst I've been saying, you ran nearly 54 kilometers.
Yes, last Saturday.
Okay.
But do you know what's funny is I would rather.
It was fine though. It was a cruisy pace, she told me.
Right. I would rather do last weekend again than do what I did today. That last 1K today.
What's most challenging one? The 10K, definitely, wouldn't it? Yeah.
10K for sure. Yeah.
The intensity is obviously very different.
Yeah.
You know, like 100-meter sprint can be pretty tough if it's over within like less than 15 seconds.
We had this conversation last week, did we not? Was it what's more difficult, running a marathon or rowing 2K?
Oh, 2K.
Well,
the 2K,
it was no, it was a 5K.
Oh,
it was a 5K run,
5K run or a
2K row.
Yeah.
Okay, that's more tricky.
Obviously, the time domain is very different, and the nature of the task is very different. But which one can you bury yourself more on?
What did you go for?
Personally, I think the 2K row.
I would 2K be row,
but there's a few metrics and a few things you can look at to measure this. Obviously, everyone's going to be a little bit different here, but personally, if I run a 5K, when I was at peak running, which isn't very good, by the way, I was just over 20 minutes for a 5K. I remember finishing that and feeling pretty smashed, but within 5 minutes, I'm good. I'm walking around, I'm going back to the gym, I'm chilling out, and blah blah blah. After my 2K or even 2K ski or 2K row, I'm on the floor for a good half an hour. Fucked. I can't breathe properly. My throat is on fire. My legs are trashed. I am ruined. And I don't know if it's because I'm able to push harder, so like a higher RPE on the machine than I am running. However, at the time, I think I was at full capacity on that run. I don't know if I could have done any better. And I don't know. It's obviously more strenuous. It's more muscular. Have you ever done race walking at all?
No.
So it's massive on the Isle of Man, like where I live. It's it's huge. Yeah, it's massive. And when I first moved over here, so my mum's from the Isle of Man, and I've moved over here a few years ago with my kids. I used to visit here, and my aunt used to race walk, for us as a sport. And for anyone that doesn't know what race walking is, it's basically people with really, really long femurs, usually wide hips, looking like they need a poo, and walking really fast. And so to put it into perspective, there's a girl called Erica. I say girl, she's like 30 now. So her 10K PB race walking is under 40 minutes.
Wild.
Walking. And the standard, so there's a movement standard here. You have to have 1 foot on the floor at all times.
Yeah,
so there's people watching. So it looks like they're gliding. They look like they're walking. So that would be a no rep there on the left.
Yeah, in that.
Yeah. So Manx Harriers, by the way, is like the athletics club. So that might well have been something else. But so when I first moved over here, I took an interest because I work at the Institute of Sport. So I get to work with the S&C with a lot of the different athletes and track and field and whatnot. And I spoke to Erica about race walking, and I spoke to her this week actually because she's branching off into 10K running now as well as race walking. And I asked her which was harder, a 10K run or a 10K race walk, and her run is 3 minutes faster than her race walk, like her 10K PB. But she said her heart rate on the race walk is never under 190 for the whole time. But So from go, once they've warmed up, it goes up to 190 really fast, and she stays there. With the running, it's not above 180. And she's put it down to the fact, and I've looked this up since I spoke to her on Tuesday about this. It's the strain going, it's very muscular because you're propelling yourself, because it's obviously a little bit more slower, it's more strenuous. So you're using a hell of a lot more muscularity over velocity. So if you look, they have notoriously bad hips as they get a little bit older. But for me, it's the knees. They look like they're hyperextending the knees with every step. But when you see it to start, you're like, oh my God, what the fuck is this? Like, is it because you can't run? But honestly, the pace that they're going at and the straight, you try walking really fast for like a mile, it's more muscular than running, if that makes sense. So getting back to I actually asked her the other day because she asked me about Hyrox, and I said, you could race walk a Hyrox. I'd be the first race walk as the Hyrox. But
that's what it looks like I'm doing when I'm on the race course, like walking.
Yeah. So we were talking about that, but I said to her like about that, but going back to the row and the 5K, I think the nature of the row is a lot more muscular. So you're having to use a lot more power exertion there. So I think because of that, there's a difference in the type of fatigue you're going to feel afterwards. But I think during the actual task, I don't think there's too much of a difference between how you're going to be able to get feeling wise. But I think it's just post event. I think the rowing the 2K, you're going to feel trapped. Like look at the 200 meter sprinters or the 400 meter sprinters. 10 minutes after they've raced, they are a mess still. You look at the 5 and 10K runners on the track, because they're aerobic most of the time, they're pretty much on their feet and ready to go again. And it's not necessarily the actual task that's less intense or easier or harder. It's just the recovery afterwards. And for me, that would be what I base my answer on about which one is tougher. It's how I feel after the fact, right? Because I think the task you can push to an RPE, whatever you're going to do. So yeah, long answer there for something.
Going back to like that first run post, like 8 weeks. I know you said you were running with the metal still in your foot, but what was it like getting the metal out and then going for that first run? Was it like, obviously that's probably quite an emotional experience. Was it exciting? Was it scary? Did you think like, fuck, am I going to be able to like hold the pace, like even the pace that you had in mind? Or did you just kind of go out there and just be like, just grateful that you were?
Definitely mixed emotions. So there's a part of me, I was like, I can't believe how normal my foot feels, because had got so used to not being able to move it and having like certain pains permanently in my foot. I just assumed I was going to have that for the rest of my life. So when it then got taken out, I was like, oh, this actually feels really good. So like that part, I was on a high. But what I hadn't appreciated was maybe prior my ability to run, because for the first time I feel in my life, I didn't enjoy running and I found running hard. Like I was probably quite renowned for being the one, like I would run forever. And I was always the one that was like chit-chatting and encouraging everyone. Like I never found especially like a casual run, like it was fine. I could go on forever. But for the first time, I was like, I hate it. Like, I hate finding it hard. So then like that was like at me as well. So it was very mixed. And then when I was wanting to get like better and I started increasing, for the first time ever, I was like, I don't want to do my running session because I hate how it made me feel. When I did my first track session, so my first speed session back, it's probably embarrassing to say, I was at the very back crying as I was running around because like I was so like, I just kept reflecting back on the past. And I just, as soon as I finished, I came out, like pretended I wasn't crying. And then I just called my mom and I was like howling. I was like, I can't believe I can't do it anymore.
From going from like that, like how did you then like change like your mindset around the training and then actually just like did you have like an identity shift? How did you change? How did you flip it from like absolutely hating it to then what in the last 8 weeks, like you're pretty much I wouldn't say you're back, but you are like you're well on your way.
I'm very stubborn, and because I have a training program for my Ironman, which I'm doing in August, I will never skip a session. Like if it's recorded, I will not miss a session. So I don't know why, I just couldn't miss it because it was down. So that's the only thing that kept me going, was having my program. And then out with that, then when you see like a teeny bit of progress, it kind of does encourage you. So especially the last 4 weeks when I've noticed like a big chunk of progress, like the first 4 weeks, I didn't see anything. And I'm like, why do I even bother? And then you do reflect a bit and like, I can't actually believe the difference. But yeah, very much it comes down to, I can't not do something that's on my program. I'm just literally wired like that.
Wired that way.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then you start building that momentum and just know that it's just going to snowball, isn't it?
Completely. And I just wanted to push myself, especially last weekend running my ultra. I just wanted to see if I could do it. That wasn't on my program. I went rogue, but yeah. That was definitely not on the program.
Who's doing your Ironman programming, or is it like the Tri Club or?
So funny enough, I am actually with Inverness Tri Club, but I've just got like a 16-week program through Pro Coach. But yeah, so I go once or twice a week to Tri Club in Inverness, but that's specifically for swimming. So when I say I could not swim, horrendous. I was just more of a doggy paddler kind of girl. But then when everything happened, the one thing I could get back into was swimming.
In the water.
And when I say I could only swim 25 meters, and then I was like gasping for air. But that's one thing I've done consistently, apart from the times that I couldn't when my wounds were either open too much or when I was going back in for surgery. I've swam 3 times a week, like religiously.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Ever since. So I think I started the last week in October. So I think that really has made a big difference, keeping up on top of like my aerobic base. But yeah, the swimming, so that's made a big difference, which is what led me on to then booking my Ironman, because I wanted something to focus on. Funny enough, I actually did have a half Ironman booked, and it was in April. So I had to cancel that last minute because then I went in for my surgery. So I did have to push that back. But yeah, so I wanted to challenge myself, classic. So yeah, doing a full Ironman in August. So that's what I'm currently training for.
Grand.
Cool.
I was just waiting to see if Jake had anything to ask before I continue.
Yeah. No, it's that usual story, of coming back and just randomly signing up for ultra on a random weekend.
And a big part.
I've been there so many times.
Oh, she never signed up for the ultra. She just done it on a whim.
Yeah, I just chose to do that. And a big part of as well was doing the Ironman is because only since April I've been able to even bend my foot. So I haven't literally not been able to do lunges. I've not been able to do even little things you don't think of as the burpee broad jumps when you obviously you're bending that, like when you're like pushing forward, like propelling forward on your foot. Like I couldn't do that. So that's why like the Hyrox thing has taken a back seat. Well then, especially as building up my aerobic base again, because that was bad.
And the things like sled push, like
yes,
like driving through. I was like, is there any kind of like, have you attempted any of the movements yet, or is that still something that you've yet to kind of even venture into, like the more Hyrox based like conditioning stuff?
So I've given it all a try. I can't help but not. I've noticed like a big difference. The strength in my foot is I have to do a lot of rehab. I can't, like, for example, go up on my tippy toes. I don't have the strength in my foot. So I'm having to build up that. Little things like I would never even think of, like doing a box jump. I just don't have the power or any strength in my foot. So that's a big thing, focusing on building that up. But I think of it as, oh, my bones are like fixed or fused together now. They're like, you've done so much tendon, ligament damage. All your muscles have been like torn apart like twice now. So it's that side of things that's almost taking longer.
Yeah. We had another lad on here from Inverness as well, Jack Gunn. He's a bodybuilder at the Forge, and he ruptured his full patella, and his kneecap basically ended up about 6 inches into his quad. And we had him on to basically speak through his kind of like rehab process, and he kind of went into like the extent of his like all his peptide usage for like healing all his injuries. And I was wondering if anyone like even mentioned like that kind of stuff like to you now, because obviously I don't believe peptides would be technically legal in a tested, sport, but as you weren't competing, did anyone ever mention anything like that to you, or is it just
no?
I don't think it's well known over here.
Yeah, no, they hadn't at all. Would I have been hesitant if it's not then like legal? There's an element of me like I would literally try, and I tried everything, and I still would. But then if it affects like my race record, I don't know. I think I'd feel too guilty, like going to Hyrox. Even like next year, I'd be like, oh, but I did do that back in 2024.
It doesn't have any impact on performance. It would be BPC 157. It's called body protective compound. It helps repair ligaments, tendons, muscles. Like even like.
I'm gonna look into it.
Yeah, honestly, like I'm actually using it just now for my back. And it's working wonders. Jake's probably fed up hearing everyone talk about BPC 157 in our group chat. You can see him.
No, I've got it's a fully naturally appearing compound. Like we created it. We created it. It's not illegal in the sense that it's actually going to be detrimental to your health. It's just it hasn't been tested well enough yet to be able to be legalized and to be encouraged and used. So it hasn't gone through the 5 steps of clinical trials and blah 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 blah. But every single person that's used it in sport, outside of sport, colloquial, people that we know, every single person that's used it has said they've tried everything and they've done this, and within a week they feel 10 times better already. It's in essence, it's like imagine branch chain amino acids.
That's what it is. It's an amino acid.
Yeah, and it just swarms. And it just goes to the area that needs it the most, and it just impacts it directly. And there's a protocol that goes with it, obviously. But from what I've never needed it, and I haven't got any hesitation to say that if I did need it, I would be the first in line to use it. I just never had the need to use it. So, but yeah, we talk about it a lot because it's very on vogue, I guess, at the moment, because it's so damn effective. It would be the equivalent of creatine. It's a naturally occurring substance. You're going to flood your body with excessive amounts that don't naturally occur in that amount, but the impact and the amount of data on creatine is decades old. But the reason why there's this hesitation, especially from the pharmaceutical companies, is because they can't copyright or patent it, like vitamin D tablets during COVID, or there's these substances like paracetamol. You're never going to pay too much money because you can't copyright or patent it.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
So peptides are exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. And the reason they don't get the amount of attention they should is because the pharmaceutical companies can't make
they can't
the amount of money.
They can't basically like they can't get their nut they can't get their nut from it yet.
Yeah.
As soon as they figure out how to
make money,
they'll be fucking everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere.
It'll be at the pharmacies and stocked up, and it'll be over the counter. But
it's in the States.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're not trying to encourage any illegal activity here.
No, that's what we're looking into it. So.
But yeah, there you go. Sorry, carry on. I did have a question that I've forgotten.
On you go.
Bring up that.
What's while you're remembering your question, you coach athletes as well, Bryony, don't you? What did that look like when you were obviously out of action?
Definitely. So I actually took a bit more of like a back seat, and like I wasn't taking on any more athletes, and that is more, if I'm completely honest, more from the perspective I felt like I was a con because I wasn't doing anything, I wasn't performing. I kind of like did lose the confidence in me slightly, being like, well, why would they want to be coached by someone that's not doing it, that isn't proving her programming? Because all the programming I do for my athletes is like tried and tested. And then when I'm not out there trying and testing it, like I did feel a bit of like, who am I? And that never once came from the athletes. That's all just personally, like how I came
internally. Yeah.
And like they are darlings, and like I have still like most of them. It's just I'm not actively taking on more. And now like maybe some might say I'm back to it. I still don't think I'm there, but like I would again when I get back to like trying and testing everything, because I just like everything to be as like authentic as possible. So yeah.
Jake, because obviously like me and Jake both coach as well, but and I know it's obviously coming like because it's internal, but would you feel like you have to try and test like every workout like for one of your like clients, Jake? Or because I obviously write stuff, I know kind of like what I could do workouts in, and then I kind of think of my clients, and then I kind of think, right, well, they would need this adapted, they would need that, and it's not that I necessarily even do their workout, because I kind of know like, right, this would be my kind of stimulus for it, and this would be kind of like the stimulus for them.
Or that's exactly just like yes, I wouldn't do if like I knew ones that were needing like adapted, or maybe they could only, let's say for example 3 rounds, and some of the more advanced could do 5, for example. I wouldn't be testing out doing it 3 times and doing it out 5 times. Yeah.
I think the couple of the answers to that, the benefit of having a lot of experience, I guess, is that you can draw from it about when you were, I know at the moment I'm not very good at handstand work because of my neck. Like I've had disc replacement. I'm not really going to be in a place where I can, but I can quite easily recall the fatigue levels, how it matches the push-pull stimulus. Like if we're doing handstand push-ups and rowing, for example, or deadlifts, I know how that feels. I can recall load, weight. The whole adaptation thing for different individual clients is fairly manageable because of scaling. Now, when it comes to programs for individual sports and events like a Hyrox, like a 10K, like weightlifting, like I'm a weightlifting coach, powerlifting, it's a closed environment where it hasn't ever changed. That it's exactly the same. So it just comes down to using percentages and using RPE as a guide for certain people, using different, squat cycles, for example, for strength, and just trying different things. But in terms of like trying things, I try and actively, because I predominantly I'm CrossFit coach alongside the barbell stuff. I partake in the classes 3 or 4 times a week. So I'm actively doing the classes, and then retrospectively, I can see how the big jigsaws piecing together over the meso or macro cycle as the year goes by. So I participate alongside, but I can draw from the experience that I already have in that. Something as new as Hyrox, although I haven't done a Hyrox, and we were talking about this the other day, Bryony, on another show, was I don't really like giving my 2 cents about stuff unless I can really talk from a place of experience. Like I don't feel that confidence. Whereas if you ask me about weightlifting or powerlifting or CrossFit, that methodology and training and programming and coaching, I could bore people for days about that. But when it comes to actually competition at the elite level, I've got no experience. I can't talk from experience, and I don't feel it in me to be able to preach and talk about it because I've never done it before. So with Hyrox, I could probably coach, and I can coach, but I can probably program to get someone fairly decent at it. But I can't talk from experience.
And that's, I think, what's changed so much, and like John, you might know as well, is like Hyrox, the way people have been training over and what they know, because it is such a new sport, even over the last year, or even from my year 1 to being coached to year 2, was like really quite different. But a lot of it does come down to you get more experience, and then you know what your weaknesses and strengths are. But I do think a lot of people, how they're approaching coaching last year, the year before, to how they would be in 2025 is, I wouldn't say completely different. There's still obviously elements that are the same, but I do think it is quite different.
I know I've changed mine in the last in the last year.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't even. It's not even that I've changed it, but I've got a lot more specific with the running stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I think that's the thing. Hyrox is still being understood. It's still pretty new, and the athletes are making big grounds with it by trial and error. Whereas, let's say, 100-meter sprint, how many new things are going to happen training for 100-meter and coaching? Like these events are well established and aren't really going to change massively. It's why the world records go every sort of 8 to 12 years, if that, with a lot of the longer established sports. Whereas Hyrox, the coaching is still changing, the programming is ever changing at the moment because there's no optimal and the variance. There's too many variables. You know, there's 8 stations and there's 8 different runs. Like the runs are all different because they're preceding or following a different station. So all 8 of those runs are different. Yeah. So you've got 16 different modules to kind of focus on there, whereas other sports, not so much. So different, I guess.
Yeah. But you're going to be in a very unique situation now that you are firing on more. I'm not going to say all cylinders, but firing on more cylinders, and like coming back and doing these things that you're going to have a unique story to tell, and they're all for your coaching business.
And in one way,
go out there and tell that story.
Yeah, and in one way, like it probably is beneficial for all my current athletes and all my future ones, because now I know, as I mentioned, I know now what it feels like to be running feels to be hard, to not be able to go out and do a 5K, which I don't know if that's ever been the case until the last year. So I think I've got a lot better understanding of how it does genuinely feel. Whereas before they could tell me and I felt like I would know, but now like I genuinely know.
You know how a hard session feels as someone that's pushing the boundaries at like elite level fitness, but to know how it feels for that person that's like never ran a 5K and then you're programming them a threshold run. Oh, we're just going to test your threshold. And you're there like, I fucking can't run for half an hour.
So so now that's a bit of humble pie. So I've now done both ends of the spectrum. So like it can only benefit me, let's say.
100%.
So Bryony, what are your plans for obviously we talked earlier, not setting anything in stone, which I'm totally in agreement with you, especially something so severe as your accident. Coaching wise, programming wise, do you have any plans to expand that, or have you taken on any new clients, or is there any prospect on the horizon for you in terms of that? Are you traveling to events to coach at all? Is it something you're kind of thinking of doing?
Yeah, so do you know what? I did that a lot last year, well, pre-accident, and I loved it. It was one of like the highlights because I love interacting with people, and I used to coach at a gym, so it was having the people around. Then I moved fully online when I moved to Inverness. So when I moved, I wasn't living by the gym that I coached at. So then when I went online, so would I like to get back to that and pushing that more? 100%. I guess that's my passion. Like, no offense for anyone that works in HR, but like that's because I have to do it.
That's abolic.
Like, yeah, like I don't know many people that say I want to work in HR. That's like my dream job, but that's where I am, and I've climbed a ladder and all great. But do I want to move back into my coaching being like my primary focus? Because let's be fair, that's like the main thing I'm thinking about, and doing like workshops, and especially being back out now and seeing people and just being back in that like event environment. I just thrive. Like, I love it. I can't take the smile off my face after today as well. So
yeah, you feel lucky to be able to do it and call yourself a coach, don't you? Yeah. And have people rely on you. It's quite nice, people checking in, and I guess that goes well with HR. There's a bit of a similarity there about, making sure people are okay, looking after them, keeping under your wing, checking in with people, making sure they're, on the straight and narrow. Here's a question for you, a bit left field. Are there any men in the HR department at your job?
With us? No.
I don't know any men.
I don't know I've ever experienced like a man being in HR, and it can't be just simply because men don't want to do it, or that it's a lower standard of job, because every single person at a corporation works alongside very intimately with HR. It's part of the corporate structure. Do you think there's something, I know this is totally unrelated to everything.
No, don't worry.
Do you, and I will relate this back to sport in a sec, do you think there's something special about the bond that people generally can build with a third party, being female, in the corporate environment, where they feel like a neutral party, being the feminine, is more optimal than the masculine or the male? Do you think that presence is true?
So I do think so there's two parts to it. So funny enough, I can't remember, like the big 5 companies, the top HR like directors in the top 5 are actually predominantly men. But this is what I wonder, because lower down the chain, it's nearly like all females, as you say. I personally know one HR male consultant, and so it's weird that the highest level ones, it's like 75% male. And then the further down chain you get, I think just like the way we are wired is that like females are maybe more patient, and we have to be diplomatic. And I think maybe, but it's funny because I do see it more, and like I probably shouldn't be saying this, I do think it's always more like a female role, but why, I don't know. I think it's just we can maybe manage almost like our feelings, and as I say, being diplomatic a bit better, which you do need to be. But it's a good point. I've always wondered.
Women, generally speaking, so more often than not, women care about people more than things. And the other way around, men, generally speaking, care about things more than people. It's just, it's the way that we are wired and have evolved to be. And to say, to be correct about things and to be seen to be saying the right thing about that, it's nonsense, because it's true. Look, if you've got a stable family life at home, and you've got a mum and a dad at home, if you're ever feeling emotional and you want a hug, you go to your mum. Like, there's a reason. There's more often than not. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions to this. If you want a thing done, or a thing that works around an object or an item or something, you usually go to your dad. It's just usually they go hand in hand for whatever reason. And so my question, going right back to the beginning of this, is in CrossFit, I don't see that many female coaches at the top end. There's one who is married or engaged to, I can't remember, Jeffrey Adler, who won the games a couple of years ago. Michelle, his wife.
Michelle.
She's Canadian. She's got some funny French name. But other than her, and Michelle Letendre, who's also Canadian. So you've got two Michelles, but they're both French.
Caroline Lambre.
Caroline Lambre.
Caroline, yeah. Michelle.
So you've got Michelle Letendre and Caroline Lambre. So they're both Canadian females, and they're both pretty good coaches. Michelle Letendre was a very good games athlete herself. But other than those two, there's very, very few prominent female coaches in CrossFit. Now, in Hyrox, has there been established not a hierarchy, but a household, not household, within Hyrox? Are there these famous popular coaches' names? Are there like a band of coaches that people know about yet?
Some of the biggest ones are females.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, well, funny enough, talking about that, because like Tia Claire with Proven, they've now gone into Hyrox coaching, and they've got coaches come on board. So that's definitely JK.
And that's James that runs that, yeah.
Yeah. So James Kelly, so JK, who's my coach throughout, he works for them. And then they have like Becca on board, Rebecca. Oh my goodness, her surname's gone blank, but they've got some really good, but as well, female coaches on board, but that falls under the Proven brand. But I guess then there's like Meg Jacoby as well.
Yeah, she's RMR, isn't she?
Yeah. So they're like two big training programs, I guess, that from my perspective would be the two biggest names. What do you think, John?
Yeah, and then obviously you've got Hunter. But then like female wise, there's a lot of females in the UK that are quite respected. You know, you've got like your Lucy Davis. She's got fucking mental social media following. Then you've got like Claire Rafferty. There's Jade Skillen. There's
actually quite a lot. Yeah,
I was going to say there's tons of females in the UK that are pretty reputable, like Hyrox coaches.
What's the barrier of entry for being a Hyrox coach? Is there
if there is a barrier of entry.
Okay.
As long as you don't call yourself, like you call yourself an online hybrid coach, and then there isn't a barrier of entry. If you want to call yourself an official Hyrox coach, you pay your £400 and you do their level 1, which is
you can do their courses,
which is like a little online thing that you do.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And that's basically understanding the event.
Right, rather than training.
Like
I assume so. Yeah, standard.
We'll standard. So I've actually done the foundation course.
Did you do that?
So, yeah. So like it doesn't like necessarily inform you how you would coach someone to do the movement standards correctly. It tells you what the movement standards are and what to expect. But for example, someone wasn't going to like depth enough in the wall balls, it doesn't then guide you or give you information of how you would get that person to exactly.
Right. So I guess to some degree, obviously CrossFit's a training methodology rather than an event. The level 1 CrossFit, I don't know if you've done the L1 for CrossFit, but it's how to learn the 9 fundamentals plus the couple of accessories and learning all about that. On the level 2, you learn how to coach, you learn how to program, you learn how to run a group setting. On the L1, you don't. So I guess the equivalent of that is that L1 and that course that you just talked about with Hyrox, and I understand that. But yeah, it's an interesting, definitely an interesting setting, the academy. Now, did you end up applying for that thing, Jon? That Hyrox thing, Red Bull thing?
Oh shit! Nah, I forgot about
that. Did you know about this, Bryony? It was buried away somewhere. I can't remember how I stumbled across it.
And it was
it the thing that Red Bull were running for specific coaches if you entered or something?
Yeah, Silverstone. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They hired out the entire Silverstone facility. The place was the track. and they've opened applications a little while ago. I think they're closed now, but it was Red Bull doing it along with Hyrox, and it was 60 coaches they were going to invite from the applications to come on for a whole weekend of coaching and whatnot. But it's cool that they're doing that kind of thing to get to establish this elite coaching that CrossFit's now had 20 years to build up this level of coaching. But again, it's different because CrossFit isn't an event, it's a training methodology. So, and I've been talking recently a little bit about the difference between the coaches at the top end and the coaches at the affiliate level, and why within CrossFit, it's very, very rare that you get. Oh, Hinshaw's there. It's very.
I'm leaving that up there to see if you've seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but it's funny to see him there. You very rarely get the elite athlete who's tip of the spear, top of the game, then becoming a very, very good coach in their sport. At the top level. Whereas with CrossFit, we've got very, very exceptional coaches, but they coach at the affiliates. They're coaching people to eat meat, vegetables, nuts, seeds, sun, fruit, little starch, no sugar. They're teaching people to, get their first pull up, how to scale for squatting, rehab. And then you've got coaches that are performance coaches that are looking at the top end. It would be fairer to judge the coaching on the performance Hyrox, the performance CrossFit coaches to the Hyrox coaches, because the Hyrox is predominantly obviously an event, a performance based piece rather than a training methodology. But yeah, no. So yeah, it's just interesting that there is a lot already of female coaches and trainers within Hyrox at the moment compared to other sports. And I just wanted to get your take on that, but that's interesting.
I'm gonna sign up and do this level 1 course literally so I can speak about it on the podcast.
How much is it?
$500.
Yeah, you do that. I'll listen to your thoughts on it.
Do you know there's people that have done this course. I don't want to slag anyone off, and I'm not gonna slag anyone off anyway. But there's people that have done this course and coach Hyrox that haven't even done a Hyrox race.
Yeah, I know some.
Fucking nuts.
Again, I
know you don't have to have done the thing to coach the thing, because obviously you coach Hyrox classes. But how many years experience have you got in this style of training against someone that's
the
getting into it? That's it's because it's the thing now. It's I need to fucking get Hyrox clients.
Yeah, it's a cash cow. At the money, it's a cash cow. Every online PT sees Hyrox, sees money signs in their eyes, and just all they got to do is make a jazzy video with a couple of people running on it and doing wall balls, and then people sign up for a £30 a week training.
Bryony, would you agree with this? The race feels very different to what you'd actually expect. When you were doing your first training for your first one, whether that's their doubles with Sharon or your solo in Barcelona, do you know when you're doing simulations at the gym or even training at the gym, and then you go and do that first one?
Yeah.
Did you like me think, holy fuck, that was 10 times worse than what I could have
Yeah. And I hate to say it, I do think it's harder than you expect it to be, which I would never outright say that. I would put it a lot more diplomatically to one of my athletes. But so sorry if you're listening, I would say that it's harder than you expect your first one.
Oh, no, don't even sugarcoat it. I've got someone that signed up with me less than 3 months ago, and I was the whole proviso is I want to do a Hyrox, and I was like, cool, well, let's get you fit enough, then we'll get yourself signed up. And then he signed up for Birmingham, and I was like, oh, we've got lots of work to do. And he's like, oh, it's months and months away. I was like, I think you're underestimating how hard this is going to be.
But even though I say how hard it was, Anyone can do it, and I would genuinely recommend like everyone signs up and give it a go, because even though it was like really hard, that was like really hard for like my standard of what like I was expecting. Everyone that goes pushes themselves to like their hardest. So like someone that's going for like a 2-hour Hyrox, like they're pushing themselves to the max of their
just as hard as the person that's done a 60-minute one.
That's doing a 60-minute. So even though we're saying it's really hard, like anyone can do it. And I'm always like, do it. And you won't know unless you give it a shot.
That's how do you say like putting an asterisk on it to say it's as hard as you make it by pushing yourself. Like anyone could like go and walk it. And like then push the stations. It's like, but like you go to your max effort.
But thinking like we talked about this earlier with the 2K row, anyone can row 2K. If it takes you 6 minutes or 60 minutes, you know, you're going to get something, a very different takeaway from it. Although I'm 40, right, and I know I don't look it, thanks. Although I'm 40, I still have a little bit of in me, and I hate to admit this, but I've seen people that have done a Hyrox and I've got through it, and I know for a damn fact I am so much fitter than they are. and so in my head, I think, it's all right. It's all right. I'm good for it. But you've just, all three of you have now nailed it now on the head there, is that you're only getting out of it whatever you put in. You know, and those people have gone through it and they've done it very well for themselves and they found it very challenging. If I went at their pace, I probably wouldn't. However, if I tried going at Hunter McIntyre's pace, I wouldn't last the first 1K run. I wouldn't be able to do it in that time. So it's all relative to the individual. And you get out what you put in. That old adage is so true, and it's the beautiful thing about this. But then you've got the variables. Then you've got the, you know, the actual, what we talked about, the 16 modules there. So it's going to be really interesting.
Not even just the workout itself, but as Bryony was saying, like the venue, like the heat that could be there, like all sorts. You see things like Berlin, the rain. It's like I don't like the idea. Like I did Berlin and I spoke very highly of it, and then I was like so glad I didn't go there this year and experience like having to queue for wall balls, having to, you know, run in like torrential rain and hailstones and all. I was just thinking that would just ruin my whole experience of the race if I was part of that. I think this should be kept indoors, like so it can be as like replicated as possible. Personally,
are there events like Berlin? Let's say, are there events where it's done for? I know that there's the pro and there's the amateur, whatever you call it, but the open. Is there ones where it's done like as a novelty, where you're going through it all, but it's not?
Berlin last year was like you couldn't qualify for Worlds off of Berlin. There is a few like that, isn't there? Is a few venues like that you can't qualify for Worlds off the back of them, isn't there?
Not that I know of, to be fair, but maybe that is the case. It's never one that I have heard of.
You know, like but the special venue ones.
Oh, maybe.
I'm not sure.
I've never heard of that. But they do, or it was a big thing before full Hyroxes became like so sold out, is when they were trying to promote Hyrox a few years ago. What did they call it when they did like it was kind of like a half Hyrox, and they would go around gyms to try and
they used to do the FTP. It was like a fitness like threshold like test and stuff, and they'd rock up to different like basically they would go around Hyrox gym, CrossFit gyms, basically doing like Hyrox test.
That's the only thing I can think of where you can just do like something similar, but that's not the official event,
right?
Whereas now there's events popping up left, right, and center.
I just don't know. Like I'm really interested in the next iteration of Hyrox. So what's next? Is it literally just going to be they cash in on this influx as much as they can, keep it exactly the same business model, and just go for a couple more years and then think about what's next? Or are they going to keep that going and then have another version of Hyrox going alongside it, more of a less of an event and a race, more like a, I don't know, like a half one, or I know they do a relay, don't they, and that kind of thing, but like a bro version. Like we were talking about this at the gym the other day, if they got rid of like the sled or the rower, let's say, and did 10 power cleans at like a relatively heavy load, it completely changes the audience that are going to go and qualify and want to do it.
That's where events like that Marchand are running. You know, is it AFX? Like those, like, and that's going to continue to grow as well.
Deadly Dozen that does like such a variety. They'll do like an erg version, and then they'll do one where it's like more strength.
They've got barbells involved in that. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So, and then there's the big one that's coming in September.
Hybrid games.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So,
is there one in Liverpool?
Yeah, there's Liverpool, Newcastle, Glasgow.
There's a guy from my gym doing that. It's coming up soon, isn't it?
The one in Liverpool is.
And it's really interesting because it starts with the run into the 100 wall balls, which take like that's a different take in it, and then it's the assault bike straight after. So it's like very, I would say it's very like taxing straight off the bat, but there's only a sled push in that. And not a sled pull, which is like, oh, that's the sled push is fine. It's the sled pull that really fucks people up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, do you know what's just come up? That's really weird. You know, I was talking about that lady Erica earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on. Oh, this is just a random pop up.
While Jake's pulling this up,
there's her and her husband Ollie. So he's got a 2:19 marathon. He's pretty quick, and that's
like
Erica.
His shoes.
Yeah,
shoes are those.
Yeah, they are cool.
Not Mizuno. Cool, he's a Mizuno athlete, I think.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, but so his mum was a marathon runner. He's a marathon runner. She's a speed walker.
So he race walks.
No, he runs. So he's a marathon runner. So yeah, 2:19, and she's recently started running.
Did you say 2:19
marathon? Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, he's pretty quick.
That's what I ran my first half in.
Yeah, I think his half's like 64 minutes. I think is his half marathon PB 64 minutes. Yeah, but anyway, sorry that just popped up. Yeah, that's so wild. Future of Hyrox. So when's your event? Have you got an event booked in this year, Bryony?
Ironman next, isn't it?
Yeah, so I have actually quite a lot booked in. So I have an Ironman in August. I've just got a smaller local triathlon prior. And then this is where I get carried away, which is what led me to do my ultra on last weekend. Was I have a backyard ultra, so a last man standing event 2 weeks after my Ironman. And I have Amsterdam Marathon with my sister. I have another backyard ultra in November. And then this is a maybe. Did you know the hardest thing with Hyrox is getting a ticket these days? I was maybe going to making a comeback in one of the events in December. None of the tickets are available yet, and then I'll probably have to go in a queue of like 15,000 people and try. But
and then some.
Yeah. So that's going to be the plan. So I just got to, as I've just said a lot, not get too carried away, but just really focusing on my rehab. And if there are niggles, to stop. One thing is I do have permanent nerve damage in my foot, so there's certain things where it just feels weird, but I just continue on because like that's expected. So yeah. So
what, a lot like do you think success is going to look different for you from like prior to the accident to moving forward, or do you still think you're going to have that, like put that kind of pressure on yourself to be like to get back to like winning events, like Hyrox events, and like making it to, because I told Jake at the time that was this 2023-24 season, your time in was it Frankfurt was like right on the cusp of like being like top 15.
Yeah. And I think for like
you got
ages,
that pressure to get back there.
Yeah, do you know it's hard? And because for ages I was like top 10 in UK, number 1 in Scotland. So, and it's funny because I know, like, for example, like Amy, who's 52 in Hyrox, and she's in the elite 15. But because I've had that year out, I was like, that was my year. Now, is there a reason why I can't get back to that standard? I feel no, but I've also feel like I've lost like the most important year because I was at that. But now when it comes to my running side, I'm like really optimistic that I'll get back to like my same like half marathon times. And that side of things, I'm very optimistic I'll get back to there. Now the Hyrox, kind of TBC. I really, honestly, at this stage, I don't know. I can't even do. It's hard when I can't even do lunges with weight on and get back up yet. So
just kind of have to wait and see, like after the first event, and then
But I'm very much, if I put my mind to it, I want to do it well. Like I won't go in unless I'm feeling like I can smash this and I'm up to a certain standard, which is also hard not going back to the same level. But I know a lot of people have to do that and it happens, but that's the bit I find hard, is going back and not being good.
I don't know if Jake's got any more questions, but I always ask my clients, like when they sign up with me, or like, I ask them even before they've signed up. It's on there. Jake will hate this, and I don't even call it a discovery call, but I just know that he hates the term discovery call. So let's pretend we call it a discovery call, but it's just a consultation call. And I always ask them what success would look like in a year's time. So like, if like basically finish the sentence, like in a year's time, I want to, and then then you.
Okay, so mine would definitely be within next year. Get back under a sub 130 half marathon, which I actually got the week after Hyrox Glasgow. And ultimate long-term goal is I would like to get a 3-hour marathon. And I think give me till the end of next year, I'll be able to do that. But funny enough, all my goals are related to running rather than Hyrox now, which that has been the change. But I would find it like almost like closing a chapter, just getting back on the podium for a Hyrox. But I'd probably have to be really tactical in what I chose because there's so many amazing people out there now.
But
you're
still young.
Yeah, I was going to say, you never know, what will happen in a year with like strength training, obviously, because that'll be an important part of getting better at running.
And then I've got to realize I've only been back properly not even 8 weeks.
Calm down.
So like this, I'm very much like, come on, Bryony, why are we not where we were before? So give me a year, I'll come back on, and let's go.
It's a lot easier said when you're removed from the actual event, but like I know Jon's been through some injuries and surgeries and rehabs himself, so I have as well, but it's sometimes things just take longer. Sometimes getting over something takes shorter time for other people, but the comparison, the thief of joy is really important when you're recovering. You need to find what you love, you need to find what you can do, you need to find a traffic light system of red, amber and green, gradually moving as much of the red stuff into the amber, approach with caution in your training, and the amber stuff eventually moves to green, and then all of a sudden you're full back training mode, and then you can start setting like event targets and goals and that kind of thing. But it's a step-by-step process, and it's really important, like you said at the offset, and like you've said all along, you need to do it at your own pace, not get too ahead of yourself, but set tangible goals that are within reach, that you believe you can do. Now that varies from the average gym goer and Hyrox athlete up to the elite like you are, or were, and are. You've got the capacity and the capability to do that. Now for someone at your level, that year of being out away from the sport means a lot. Whereas someone like me, a year away from being able to do bench press, although that would break my heart, I went from not with my nerve damage down my left side. I couldn't bench a 20 kilo barbell for about 6 months. had my neck surgery, and then here I am 5 years later. So it took 5 years pretty much to get back to where I was before. So, but I'm not at the top level waiting to get back on stage and compete with the elite. So it's a lot easier said than done for people that are distinctly away from the elite sport. However, I've got a wife that was at that level, not in Hyrox. She'd be terrible at Hyrox. But I saw her going through that, and the mental anguish for elite sports people to recover. It's tough, but you've absolutely nailed the mindset that you need for it, and taking it and enjoying it, and listening to your body, being intuitive, like you said. The fact that you did, I know I'd joked about just casually doing a 54K, whatever it bloody was, on an average Sunday, but you know your body and you trust your body and you know what you're doing. So you're in the exact right position to make those type of decisions and those calls as you go. And there's other days where you know full well that you should not be doing anything, so you don't. And being body aware is so important with that. And you're nailing it. So good on you.
It's funny because she might know, but if it's written down, she'll not miss the session.
But here's the question for you, right? So this is my last question for you, and it's to do with that.
Okay.
When you're reading that program and the, S&C work or the miles and the percentages and whatnot, do you actually learn from that, or do you just do what it says and then not question it or don't think about what you're doing? Is there a process that goes on where you want to learn and question what you're doing?
Yeah, completely. Good. That one. Yeah,
I
want to know why I'm doing it, why it's going to help, it's going to improve me, and the steps to where I'm getting, and the thought process around it, because it might be that I just don't understand why I'm doing it, but then when it's relayed back to me, I'm like, that makes so much sense.
That's how I got better. I used to just ask questions all the time, and my coaches probably hated it, thinking just probably thinking do the workout. But I love when my clients ask, "Oh, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that?" And then it means I can then educate them, so then they actually understand why I'm getting them to do specific things, and it's not just like, "Oh, I hate fucking doing this."
Yeah,
it's like, this is why I'm getting you to do it. So then you actually start enjoying it because it's going to make you better at this thing that you're trying to do.
But with the proviso that when they ask a question, one, they listen to the fucking answer, and two, they don't ask it again next time it comes up. There's nothing. So if there's anyone out there listening to this that gets coached, fucking ask the questions. Your coach wants you to ask the questions, but do them the favor of actually listening and absorbing the information, because it's so important to ask those questions, but then learn from it. The second time you ask, no, you didn't listen the first time. That's when it starts to get annoying.
I've got a thing that I call the 3 commitments, and it's be quick to ask, be quick to implement, and then be quick to give feedback. So actually ask questions if you don't know what you're doing or why you're doing something, implement what's then being told to you, and then report back, actually communicate. And if people do those 3 things in coaching, they'll skyrocket their progress. Whereas if they don't do if they do one of those things and they just ask questions but don't do the other 2, it's it's not going to work. And if all they do is just do the thing but never find out why they're doing the thing or whatever, I find that they've got a shelf life, and they'll eventually kind of get fed up and burnt out and kind of go off in their own kind of course.
That's great.
And then the people that just ask questions but don't do it, I don't know. I think I've kind of lost my train of thought there, but
we know what you mean.
You get the message.
Yeah, good. Well, Bryony, it's been lovely to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks for coming on, and we'll reassess next year.
Yes. See,
unless you get off this and be I'm not going back on that show.
Nah, you can have me back whenever you want. So we'll talk about my 3-hour marathon this time next year.
Yeah.
There we go. Hold you to that.
Right. Hang around for 2 seconds. We'll end the show, and I always end the show in an abrupt manner.